Welcome to Panel Layout and Organization. TouchDesigner projects often include interfaces that are organized as sets of panels. Let's take a look at panel components and the common ways that we can build layouts with them. Let's use the Tab key to open up the Create dialog, and here instead of components, we'll see there's an entire column dedicated just to panels. We're going to work primarily with the container component, but these same principles apply to our other panel components. Let's grab our container component and take a look at one of the key pieces here right away. We can build relationships between different panel components either by using their top and bottom connectors or by using hierarchy. So let's copy and paste our container here. Let's go ahead, head over to the look page and change it to be maybe orange and turn its alpha up to 1. Now, if we use our top and bottom connectors here and come back to container 2, we'll see that we can change the width and height. And now our container 2 is a subcomponent of container 1. Now, if I take container 2 and cut it, and move inside of container 1 and paste it inside of this operator, and then zoom back out by using the middle mouse wheel, we'll see that this organization, by nesting an operator inside of another operator, this has the same effect. So we can use both our top and bottom connectors to create hierarchy, or we can nest operators inside of one another. I'm going to cut container 2 and paste it outside here. This is largely stylistic, and it really comes down to how you want to work. Now let's look at how we might build an interface for an application that we might build in TouchDesigner. So starting here with container 1, I'm going to go ahead and give it a resolution like 1280 by 720. And next here in container 2, I'm going to change the color of this. I'm going to pick maybe this light blue color. And I'm going to start by thinking about how I want to arrange my panel components. And in fact, before I even start with a sidebar, I think probably I want like a header. So I'm going to give like this a dark gray color. I'm going to head back to the layout page and I'm going to change some parameters here. So I only want this to have a height of say 20, but I'd like it to have its width. So here in our horizontal mode, I'm going to have it set to fill. So this is going to fill across the entire parent component. Now I'm going to add another container here into my network. I'm going to treat this as the body. I'm going to connect these here. And here in container 3, I'm going to go ahead and give it a color so I can also see it. I think I'm going to actually just give it maybe like a maroon color here and turn that up. Here on container 1, I'm going to head to the child page and I'm going to select a line top to bottom. And that's going to go ahead and put my header here at the top and my other component right underneath it. Now I'd like this container to fill all of what's left here in container 1. So I'm going to head to the layout page and I'm going to change its horizontal mode to fill and its vertical mode to fill. So now it's going to fill the rest of what's left over. Now this is a good start, but the next thing I want to do is think about a sidebar. So I'm going to go ahead and add another container here to my network. I'm going to connect this to container 3 here. And now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to head over to the look page. I always like to give these a color so it's easier to see what I'm working with and how they're arranged. This time in my layout page, I'm going to think of this as having a fill mode for its vertical mode. So it's going to fill what's left here in the parent. I want it to always fill all the way. And then its horizontal mode, rather than being fixed, rather than specifying this as pixels, I'm going to set this to be anchors. Now my anchor is going to allow me to pick the width of this that's expressed as a ratio. So I could say, for example, that I only want this to be 20% the width of its parent component. And that's what's happening here. So rather than thinking about a specific value that represents the width of this, instead this is just a ratio. Now we could also think of this as moving from the left. I just happen to think in this case that I want it to be pulled over from the right here. Okay. So here we can think of this as 0 and we're going over the right 20% of the way. Now I want to fill this in with some other components here. So I'm going to add another container. This time around, I'm going to connect 1 and I'm going to start here by making their color orange, for example. And let's start by thinking about their width. In this case, I'm going to just fill the width and I want these only to be about 40 tall, I think. Now I'm going to copy paste a couple of these. So I've got 2, copy paste 3. Now let's go ahead, let's go back to container 4 and let's look at the children page. Now I'd like to set these to align top to bottom. So here we can see they've stacked one right on top of one another. I'm going to give them some spacing because I want them to be spaced between one another. And then I'm also going to add some margin values so that I have some border pixels that go around these. This way I don't have to calculate that size manually. Now I'm getting close to something that I like here pretty well, but I want to add another container And let's go ahead and think of this container as what's sitting on the right-hand side of container 3. Now I'm going to do the same idea. I'm going to come over here to color. I'm going to give this a color so it's easier for me to see where it is. Excellent. I'm going to head over to container 3. I'm going to change its children align to left to right. And then here, container 8, I'm going to pick fill and fill. All right, this is great. The last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add 2 more containers. And these containers are going to be connected to container 8. Let's go ahead and give these both, I think, the same color this time around. I'm going to make them both purple. And I'm going to go ahead and set them on the children page to align left to right. I'm going to select both of these. Let's go ahead this time around and make sure these are both set to fill and fill. And let's go back to container 8. Let's do some of the same things we've done before. Let's give this spacing of 10 and a margin of 10. Now, the last thing I want to do here is I'm going to give these a little border. So I'm going to select both container 9 and 10. I'm going to head over to the look page, and the left, right, bottom, and top border, I'm going to select this border A, which is this color right here. So now I've given them a nice outline. And if I come over here and take a look at the interface that I've created, I can see, actually, let's go ahead and head to container 2. Let's make this header color just a little bit lighter so we can see it. But we can see I've started to block out what a wireframe for an interface might look like, where I've got a left panel, and then I have these other pieces that are arranged here. Now, one of the benefits of the approach that we've used in this particular way that we've laid out our panel components is that if we turn up the resolution to say 1920, but kept the height at 720, we're still filling our whole interface. So we haven't had to adjust any proportions. The only thing that we might think about changing as our resolution increased or decreased would be if we wanted these tabs to be a little bit taller, or if we want to change the header. I don't think I want to do that. So this is a great way to start thinking about how you're working with panel components. There's lots of other things that we can do with them. And this is just a sneak peek of some of the ways that we can start building our interfaces and layouts.